Hey everybody, good afternoon, happy Tuesday. I'm super excited to be back with you. My name's Meg, I'm part of Power to Fly's virtual hosting team, and I can't wait to kick off this afternoon session. So as we get going here, I'm just gonna go over a couple of quick housekeeping items. They should be, kind of old and familiar for anybody who's joined us on for even another, like one other of these virtual sessions, but we'll go over it just real quickly for you. So there's a variety of ways that you can participate, and we definitely encourage our audience to do that. So you can feel free to turn your cameras on if you'd like to share your smiling maskless faces with us safely. You can also come off mute to ask a question or add a comment if you'd like. Now, if you have any kind of privacy concerns, no worries. You will show up on the live recording if you come off mute. But as long as you don't have your camera turned on, your face won't show. It'll just be like your display name or your avatar picture, whatever you have up. Now, if you have, like I said, privacy concerns and don't want to show up on our our recording or our live stream of today's event, not a worry. You can also participate via Zoom chat. You can type your questions and comments in there, or you can DM me if you have a question or a comment that you would like to send in but would like to be kept anonymous for whatever reason. So like I said, the session is being recorded. So everyone that registered for today's session is going to get an email in about 1 to 2 business days that will have a link to where you can rewatch this recording on our website. Now, if Shilpa has something amazing to say and you just cannot wait to share it with a friend or a coworker or a relative, you don't have to. So what you can do is you can head on over to our YouTube channel. We have a Power to Fly Chat and Learns YouTube. You can head over there, and this recording will be posted there usually within about 5 to 15 minutes of the end of today's session. Now, if you are over on our YouTube page and you're curious about what else you can find there, you can kind of click around and see there's a huge archive of a lot of our past chats are there. You can also check out a bunch of videos that we've posted, especially on our other channel, from past mini summits that we've had and office hour sessions that we do and all kinds of cool stuff. So definitely check those out. And you can keep up with us on a variety of social media channels. We are at Power to Fly on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, in addition to YouTube. So subscribing to or following us on any of those any of those platforms will keep you in the loop about what new events we have going on and what new resources we can offer to our community members. So I'm really excited to get jumped in and introduce you to our speaker. But before we do, I just want to highlight real quick that Shilpa is here as part of the Chainalysis team. So Chainalysis is hiring, and one thing I'm gonna share the link with you to where you can take a look at their company page, which is what you are looking at right now. So there's the link for that. If you click that link that I just put in the chat, what it's going to do is it's going to take you to Chainalysis company page on powertofly.com. Now at the top right-hand corner of this page, so probably somewhere around here, there will be a big pink button that says follow. If you are interested in learning more about Chainalysis, or even if you're actively job seeking and you want to keep an eye on Chainalysis, or you're thinking about looking around to see what's out there in like the next 6 months or so, click that follow button, because it's going to do a couple really great things for you. But basically, it's going to act like your friend at the company. It's going to tell Chainalysis that you are interested in working with them even before you fill out an application. And it's also going to keep you updated when Chainalysis posts new roles. So it's a really great way to make sure that you are updated on what they have going on and that they don't fall off your radar the next time, either when you are actively job searching, or even if it's just something that you're kind of curious about and you want to see where they are in like a year or two. So please feel free to take advantage of that feature that we offer. Now, I'm really excited to introduce Shilpa. She is the speaker that's joining us from Chainalysis. Shilpa is a research data scientist with over 14 years of experience in the software and fintech industry. Shilpa has held various positions as a software engineer, a tech lead, as well as a manager. In her current role, Shilpa analyzes blockchain data and derives meaningful insights which become part of Chainalysis products. Shilpa earned bachelor's and master's degrees in computer science and engineering, and she's a proud mother of 2 young kids. So welcome, Shilpa, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Meg, and thank you everybody who is here. Thank you, Paloma, for organizing all of this. Very excited.
I'm really excited and eager to get started. Before we jump in, I just want to highlight a couple of the principal themes for the day's conversation. So what you're seeing in front of you is some of the topics we're going to try and cover today. Now, we came up with these both by talking to Shilpa prior to dreaming up this event, but also by reflecting on the questions that y'all had sent in when you registered for today's session. So we condensed all those questions, tried to arrange them in a conversational format, and that's what we're going to try and get through today. However, if you took time out of your day to spend with Powerfly, we want to make sure that the time you spend with us is well worth it. So if you are here for our live recording or for our live session, no offense to future watchers, sorry you couldn't be with us today, but if you are here with us live, we want to make sure that your questions get answered. So if you have a question that aligns with these topics, great. If you have a question that you asked at registration, but you're not sure we're going to get to it, please feel free to raise it. You can come off mute and ask, you can put it in the Zoom chat, you can DM me, whatever you'd like. If we're going over one of your questions and we're not really approaching it from the way you had intended it, please feel free to give us more context, give us more details. We're more than happy to hear from you. Just make sure as you're doing that, you only come off mute if you're actively speaking. It helps cut down on background noise for everybody. And try not to interrupt Shilpa or one of our other attendees. I get paid to fill the silence, so don't let me prattling on, kind of prevent you from asking your question. So just be aware that you can really drive today's conversation. If you want us to go in depth on something, or you have a question that we're not getting to that subject, please feel free to ask. So we're going to cover this idea of, how to determine if an IC or individual contributor role or a management role is what works best for you, which I think can sometimes be a really hard thing to judge for ourselves. We're going to talk a little bit about the skills that you need to be successful in either, either road or either path. And we're also going to talk about some ways you can plan the next moves in your next career, or even just your next moves in your current role, in your current job. So, Shilpa, before we jump into our first question, I just wanted to ask if you could share a little bit with our community right now about why this topic of IC versus management roles means so much to you, like what experience you have with it, and why you were so excited to talk on this topic today.
Right. This is a topic that, thank you, Mike, for that. This is a topic that I myself have thought about for a long time. I have been a manager since 2015. That was the first time I actually got like a managerial position. But at the same time, I was working as an engineer. So it was like a hybrid role. And then since then, I have done this 2 or 3 times where I have gone back and forth between the individual contributor and the managerial kind of role. And so I definitely have had my chance to think about this and where I fit in and where industry is kind of heading. So that's why I decided that maybe this is a good topic for us to chat.
I absolutely agree. And based on the questions that we got today, this is a very popular topic and something that people are really curious about. All right, so to jump in with our first question here, this person had asked if there's a way to gauge how long you should stay in an individual contributor role if you know that you're also interested in management. Is there like a way that we can judge for ourselves when we should be moving up? Or is this something that really depends on, external factors?
Right. So let's assume that you are in the IC role, but you also have the management aspirations. One of the things that you should think about is why you are interested in management position, and whether you would really like doing all the jobs, all the things that are supposed to be done by a manager. So some of the things that manager does that I have learned over time is one of the biggest thing that they do is hiring and retaining. And so you have to, if you're creating your team from scratch, that means you are actually interviewing a lot of people, figuring out your team dynamics, what you are trying to build, what skill this person brings to the team, whether they are complementary or not, whether this person will be able to work with our team, with the existing team, and whether they will gel in your company culture. That's also equally important. If you already have an existing team, it's important for a manager to retain that team. because you want to keep people happy and keep them productive. We are working with real human beings, so this is not an easy problem. You have to make sure that they are happy in their role and they are doing justice to their potential. The other big part of your being an engineering manager is the project planning. So many times you get a problem statement from your manager is that we need to do this. So it becomes your job is to figure out different components that might be needed. You will probably work with the tech lead on that, or work with somebody who is a senior IC in your team about that, and figure out different pieces of puzzle that need to be there to do the project properly, to do it within the time and the budget. So the other main aspect of doing a project planning is the resource management, whether you actually have the people who can do the tasks that are needed for a particular project. It's not only the resources within your team, but also the resources outside your team, in your sister team, because so many times you may not always have the people who have certain skills, and you might need to borrow somebody from your sister team. So whether you can work with some of the other managers to see if there is availability of those resources. So that also becomes a part of a puzzle. The communication, which is a huge part of being a manager. You have to communicate inside your team, outside your team. You have to do the upward communication, lateral communication. What does communication mean? Why are we doing this project? Why are we doing this particular activity? Why are we thinking of doing a book club? You need to communicate all of that. So that's important. Alignment is something that a manager has to actively think about. If we are working on something, how does it align with companies' work, whether we are delivering value through that project, whether our team who is doing something that is essential for our company. If the market is changing, are we adapting to that? As the company is adapting, are we adapting to that? That's also equally important. You have to make sure that your team understands company's mission and company's values. That's also quite important. The coordination becomes a part of you. And after doing all of this, getting right people, after doing project planning, after doing all of this, one of the most important things that a manager has to do is deliver value through that project. So you have to actually deliver what you're doing, what you're thinking. You also have performance reviews and HR related things as part of your engineering manager job. So as you can see, this is like a full-time job. So if you are an IC, if you decide that, okay, I want to do this job, I think I will be good at it. Very good that you are thinking of aspiring for a job that you think you can do. But now you need to think about, okay, what am I exactly doing in my job? How am I affecting my team? So many times it happens in the industry is that you have to really show some of the skills that you need for a different role in your existing role. So being a manager does mean communicating. It does mean being a leader. So even as an individual contributor who has aspirations to become a manager has to show some of those qualities in their current role. How are you making other people productive? It's not just your productivity, but it's your team's productivity. That's also equally important. Okay, now you have decided, you have done all the groundwork. Now you have decided that, okay, I'm going to be a manager. How do you go about that? I hope that over time you have developed enough rapport with your manager that you can have this conversation with your manager, him or herself, that, oh, I think I have this aspiration that I would like to do this. Hopefully you have developed your network inside the company, and you have some mentors in different parts of the company as well that you can reach out to and say that I'm interested in this job position. Okay, now you have let everybody know, and you might even get the opportunity in your current company to to be in that role. So it's a different role than being an IC, right? You have to learn, you have to know that it's a big change from being an IC to being a manager. So you have to learn that even if you were exceptional IC, you brought a lot of value to your team and your company through your work. It's a different role. There are going to be different challenges. There are going to be skills that you have not acquired yet. So you have to give yourself grace as you navigate yourself through those changes.
I think that's a really good point you made there. Like the idea of having to give yourself grace it's very important. I feel like people don't do this enough. They don't really cut themselves slack. And so, recognizing that these are skills you're trying to learn. And so because it's new and because it's something you're trying to learn how to do, you're going to make mistakes. There's going to be things you don't know how to do, because if you knew how to do it already, it wouldn't be a goal. It would be something you already know. So yeah, I absolutely love that. So you talked a lot about some of the traits that you need to have as a manager versus as an IC. So let's talk a little bit about developing those skills. So, if you have, like you said, if you have open communication with your manager, hopefully you could, you would be able to express this desire to at least, even if you're not sure you want to be in the managerial role, you could at least tell them like, hey, I have an interest in this. I'm not sure if it's for me. Could we test this out? Is this the kind of thing that you need to get on the job training for? Should you seek out, external education or resources that way? How do people develop these skills if they're not given, small opportunities to kind of develop and flex them?
Right. Very good question. So I can give you an answer that what I have followed. I don't have the perfect answer, but at least the one that I have followed through. I never really sought out with the thought that I need to reach here or there or something like that. But I always did something that I thought, okay, if I struggled with some problem, it took me 2 hours to solve it, I decided that I need to go and document it for somebody so that somebody else doesn't do the 2 hours that they have to spend solving the same problem. So some of those things over time kind of add up, because people start seeing that you're not only solving your own problem, but you're also thinking about the effect you are having in your team, within your company, inside your community. And that becomes one of the key trait that, you show the leadership, you take the ownership of the problem and you solve the problem and you figure out, okay, maybe other people might be facing this, and let's go ahead and take that further and help those people solve that problem in a lesser amount of time. Or at least, figure out that, okay, these are the people who might have solved this, you can reach out, create that kind of community environment inside the company. What else? What other things we can do? Maybe having your own, I hope your company has a mentorship kind of program that really helps. Seeing somebody who is doing their job really, really well has an inordinate amount of effect that happens on you, because you can kind of aspire to become that person, and having that kind of mentor relationship, you absorb that indirectly, that, oh, that person is so good at API design, I want to be good at that. So I'm going to spend some time. Maybe not everybody is going to be easily approachable, but you have to try and you have to keep trying, and eventually you will have the doors open, and so you can go and have a chat. If you have a formal program inside your company, that's wonderful. Go ahead and take a part, whatever you get. So if you learn something really amazing about the leadership from your mentors, pass it on to the other people. Try to be a mentor for other people as well.
Thank you for diving into that, because I feel like this is something where, if some people feel like if you haven't acquired the skills by the time you start thinking about maybe being in a managerial role, then it's not for you, or you're not ready. But there's plenty of people, that are not, maybe they work in a team that's small enough, they don't get to try out managerial tasks or, look at it from that perspective. So I love that idea of kind of seeking out, not only just seeking out mentors in your company, but also letting your manager know, be transparent about the fact that this is something you are considering. So if there's an opportunity to start learning these skills, you would like to do that. It's, that people can't help you get where you're going if you don't tell them that you've got, some larger goal. And even if all you know is maybe I want to go into management, but you're not sure what area or something, be honest about that. There might be opportunities for you to, job shadow or try a couple different departments. So definitely look into that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry, I would say that so many times you would find that the opportunity that you are seeking within your team does not probably exist in your team. but it exists in a sister team. So if you have network inside your own company, you can go and seek that opportunity over there. Managers and even the teams prefer hiring from inside. So if you think you can find something in the other team, you should let your manager know, and that can easily happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to flag for everybody, if you do have a question that you want to raise, please feel free to do that. You can come off mute, you can put them into the Zoom chat, or you can DM me. So please feel free to let us know, if what Shilpa is saying is resonating with you, or maybe you have a different way that you've handled the situation. Please feel free to share that with us. Sharing our experiences is one of the ways that we kind of figure out if an option might work for us or not. So please feel free. All right, so we had a lot of questions based on the idea that some people might not be suited for one role or the other. So the question, the way one person phrased it was, how much of the management versus IC choice is based on personality? Are some people just not suited for one role or the other, or is it based on something other than your learned skills? How do you, what's your opinion on this?
Right. So some of the things I already listed, for, some of the job responsibilities that come with being a manager. So some of those things you have to understand that, okay, once you know those responsibilities, then you can assess where you are, right? Being a good manager is definitely a people-oriented job. At this point, you're responsible for other people's careers, you're responsible for their productivity, you're also responsible partly their happiness. So it's important that you have to take that seriously, that it's a people-oriented job. So if you enjoy talking to people, if you enjoy having conversations, really developing, giving and creating the opportunities where other people could develop. So all of those things are important for being a good manager. If you enjoy that, maybe this is a good job for you. You enjoy being a leader. So many times being a good leader means doing some things that other people wouldn't easily do, right? So you have to do that. If something goes really well, do you share the credit? That's what being a good leader means. If something goes really wrong, do you take the blame? That also means a good leader. When the production has a breakout at around 11 o'clock in the night, who wakes up? Do you wake up and are you with your team? That's also being a good leader, right? Do you like being involved in planning? Do you like solving that planning puzzle? What happens that your success is not your own success. As an individual contributor, when you write some code and you finish your task and your tests are all green, you get that euphoric feeling that, yay, things are working, I'm done here. So many times as a manager, your success is not your own success. Your success is measured in terms of success of your team. And so you have to get used to that. You have to like that. If your happiness actually comes from completing your task very well, if your happiness comes from innovation and trying new ideas and bringing new ideas to the team, but not necessarily doing it in a people-oriented way, maybe some of the IC roles are good for you. I would still say that, as you climb higher up in a technical ladder, so you start as an engineer, you become a senior engineer, a staff engineer, and you realize there's so many skills that senior roles have. Those skills are very similar to what being a manager means. In order to be very successful as a senior IC, you still need to know how to rally the troop. You need to know how to sell an idea. You need to know how to divide work so that people feel challenged but not crushed with that assignment. So some of those skills are very, very similar between being a very senior IC and being a manager.
Yeah, for sure. And I like that you highlighted that, you don't have to be excellent at all of these right this second. No manager is the best manager ever. Everybody has room for improvement. But I like that you broke it down into if this is the type of thing you enjoy, if you like talking to a bunch of people and kind of, trying to align ideas across a team or communicate this is what we're doing, or be able to problem solve, that might be something you love. If you would prefer to just be given your task and get to go head down and work on your thing, maybe managing, oh my goodness, maybe managing is not really the path that you want to that you want to pursue. So yeah, I like the idea of kind of breaking it down to like the most basic blocks of like what makes up the role. So one of the things we also got a lot of questions about was like how if these possibilities or if these roles were these paths were open in somebody's particular like in their org or in their team or in their company. So do you feel that the trajectory of an individual contributor is somewhat determined by the company culture? Or do you think like no matter what company culture you're part of, there's always a way to move from IC to management?
Right. Did somebody see that? Oh, no. Okay. So I think that the big companies always had a IC trajectory, and now more and more companies are doing this. They actually have well-defined managerial trajectory, managerial ladder, and a well-defined IC ladder. In an ideal world, in a perfect world, being a manager and being a senior IC, you would have similar level of responsibility. It's just a different responsibility. You will probably be paid equally around that. You will be compensated equally as well. And that usually is quite true. Being a senior IC is also very, very important because if you are working in a software company, having really passionate software engineers, having engineers who can really work on a project, solve difficult puzzles, difficult problems, it's important to keep them in your company. It's better for company as well. So yeah, the big companies always had this technical ladder of, senior engineers, staff engineers, technology fellows. Now more companies are adopting that.
Excellent. Okay, so in your opinion, do you think this allows for that feeling like it is possible to move from manager to or so from IC to manager, or do you think that this like kind of shoots that in the foot a little bit? Like, are there benefits to it that outweigh the cons, I guess?
Right. One of the thought I have had in the recent times, and the blog that I'm eventually going to share, that also corroborates with that, is that it should be an individual choice. The person who really wants to write code and get things done should not have to go into a managerial route just because they think it's an upward movement. If you are really happy doing your tasks, doing your projects, really innovating, really bringing new ideas, solving bigger problems, finding newer challenges, that should be something that you should be happy doing. And there you should still have a good outlook about what your role is in that particular position. You should not have to go into people management if you're not excited about it. In the same way, if you're a manager, but you would and you want to continue doing that, you should continue to do that. You should not have to, do cross it out. But in case, there are people, weird people like me, who go criss and cross, that should be allowed as well. And that is allowed, that should be okay. Because you learn different skills being in different roles. Being a leader, being a manager, you learn the value of communication, you learn the value of leadership, the collaboration, the teamwork, all of those. And when you transition from being a manager to being in the IC role, you bring all of those values. And you are more valuable in that sense, because now you understand the bigger picture much better than you have understood as an individual contributor. And if you are an individual contributor who is moving into a managerial role, you understand some of the pain points that your team probably faces so much better. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that with us. Okay, we got this question and I wanted to make sure we touched on this. This person wrote, I want to pursue the IC path, but I'm afraid that at my age, this person says they're mid-40s, companies would rather hire younger talent. As a product designer, I feel a bit forced to choose the management path in order to stay hireable for years to come. Do you think that age factors into the decision-making of the IC or management path, or is this something that's should be completely separate and shouldn't have to be a factor?
Okay, I want to give you a good news first. I have personally managed somebody who was 62-year-old, young engineer. So if you are really good at your craft, you should be hireable, no matter your age. You should continue to apply for the jobs that you are interested in. People understand the experience that you bring. being in technology, or actually at this point, is we are living in such a fast-paced world that you have to learn, keep learning. Learning is an important key. Whichever job you want to go for, IC, management, director, VP, CEO, if you are always learning, then you will keep yourself hireable. Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think you're right. That is a feature of a lot of like, you know, kind of different industries right now, is that you're going to have to keep learning. So while it might be something you have to stress a little bit more, or like highlight a little bit more clearly in your application, just to like kind of forestall those kinds of questions, show how you've stayed abreast of, like, you know, the current, you know, whatever the current trend is in the industry. Show that you've you know, kept you know, continued your education, so that you now know, you know, some of the new tech or some of the new like platforms. So yeah, I think that's a really great way to put it. And thank you so much for sharing that experience with your you know, with your IC. I think it's very important that people are more like kind of more visible about the struggles that they face, especially with ageism in the workplace, because it's one of those things that's slightly different, I feel like, from industry to industry. But overall, you know, it's not a great feeling. You know, it's not something that, you know, you see. It's not something that most people like think automatically is like, oh yeah, I've got all this experience. They just think somebody's going to see them and feel like, well, that person's a little bit long in the tooth, aren't they? So yeah.
Right.
Let's go back to one of the other questions, or sorry, this question that somebody had asked, and it was about like seeing value in your work, right? So this person said, I've been an individual contributor for a long time, and I've always struggled with management not seeing as much value in what I do compared to what managers do. Is there a way to find a place that will value me as an individual contributor as much as they value their managers? So I thought this was an interesting question, because it sounded like somebody who's like maybe looking around to find a new home or a new company. Is there anything that you would look for in that process, either, you know, researching the companies that you're going to apply to, or the interview process, or anything?
Right. So I would like to address, before that person goes ahead and looks for a new job, right? If your company has something called as a 360 reviews, and these many companies actually kind of do this. These are performance reviews that they do quarterly, or, you know, like a semi-annually or something. And here they get your own feedback about your work, your manager's feedback, and your teammates' feedbacks about what you did, what you finished, what you worked on. And it's important. So if that is part of the process inside your company, you have to have good working relationships inside your team as well. It's you have as I hope that it's people understand that it's not just the teamwork which is a key word for a manager, but having good team relationships, having good working relationship inside your own team opens so many doors for you. Because, you know, you go and tell that I finished this project, this was so hard, I did such a good job. But then your teammates goes and tell your manager that she did such a good job, and that was such a difficult problem. You know, it makes a different impact. And so having good working relationship within your team, being able to inspire each other, being able to understand each other's difficulties and really work through solutions together, that's one part of solution. Regardless, if you decide that, okay, I'm still going to go and look for a new company where, you know, this problem may not happen. So one of the things you should definitely do in the initial rounds of your interviewing, talk to the recruiter about, you know, how are people value, if the value of being a senior IC or being an engineer, is it same as being a manager? In most sensible technical basis, you will realize that company understands the value of both of these positions, because they are different roles and both of them bring value to the company, and without each other they can't really finish anything, they can't really work on anything. So hopefully the recruiter tells you that, and you find a better culture in your next company. Good luck.
Yes, absolutely. And just to highlight, because I feel like it's something that we say a lot on these chats, but like I feel like we don't say it enough, or there's no way to say it enough. When you're going through and interviewing these companies, it's a two-way street. You are interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. So if you ask a question like, what's your relationship, what's your team dynamic between ICs and managers? How much weight, do the managers have the final say, or do ICs have the opportunity to weigh in on how things, might work better or whatever? What is the, idea process like? Do you have a really strong hierarchy and like chain of command you have to follow? Or is it just, if you have a great idea, let us know and we'll see how it works? Asking them those questions and listening to the answers is just as important as answering the questions that they're asking you. So if you're asking these questions and they're like either not answering them to your satisfaction or just sort of stonewalling you, that says a lot. That's something to pay attention to. Are they looking to answer your questions, or are they just looking to like tell you what they want you to know and not really elaborate on anything else? Okay, so we had a lot of questions that came in from working parents or people who are kind of looking at or weighing personal responsibilities in their personal lives versus work life. So this person said that as a working parent, I'm concerned that a move into management would cause my personal life to suffer. Is my hunch correct, or is there a way to have it all on, both your personal and professional life?
Oh my God. So many times I have thought about this question. I have asked every parent that I have known, how do you do it? How do you do it? Okay. That one of the answer is that whether it affects your personal life or not. So being a manager means probably having more meetings, having more interactions with people, which kind of mean that some of that really needs to happen during the daytime. So that might be something that you need to think about. But hopefully, now that pandemic is hopefully kind of over, I hope. That hopefully more kids are going back to school and daycares, and so some of these issues might actually be going away, and you have this daytime for your work, which is dedicated, which is really good. One of the great pieces of advice when I got when I became a parent, so that was that take your task, complete it, get it done, and then move on to the next task. That is such a simple advice. It's not difficult at all. But so many times when we don't finish it, things keep lingering on. And so having the checklist of things to do, if you have to do some resource management, some coordination, some meetings, keep marking them off, and you will find that you actually finish all of it, everything by 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock your time, and you're successful in doing that. I used to ask this question to one of the senior director I used to work with, and she had 3 kids, and I always wondered how did she do it? And she was very effective at her work. And one of her answer was that I just do the Nike style. And I'm like, what is Nike style? I said, I just do it. And what do you mean by just do it? Oh, groceries, just do it. Oh, cooking, just do it. Kids play dead, just do it. Laundry, just do it. You finish a lot of these things over the weekend that leaves you, satisfied, fulfilled that you did a good job as a parent, and you have more bandwidth available for your work stuff. Yeah.
No, I think that's great advice. It's one of those things where you have the same amount of hours in the day as anybody else, but it's very easy to feel overwhelmed, especially if you have like a high stress job or a role that's, has a lot of responsibility. And one of the things that we hear a lot from working parents, and full disclosure, I am not a working parent. I don't have children, probably won't have kids, but I have a bunch of parent friends. And that's one of the things that they talk about is both like reevaluating what is actually important to you. Is it important to you to spend time with your kids every night, or is it important to you to make sure that the weekends are totally clear so you can be with them and not thinking about work at all? Thinking about exactly what's important can help you figure out what you're going to let slip, because that is not, really top of the list or anything like that. But I love your idea of having the checklist kind of thing, because then not only do you not lose track of those tasks, but it gives you that sense of accomplishment, right? I mean, for me, at least, it can be really helpful to at least start the day off with a win and feel like, okay, great, I've set myself up for success. I'm already like on a roll. Let's just keep this going. So yeah, I love that. That attitude towards it. We had a lot of people that had kind of like worried about like basically buyer's remorse if they were to move from individual contributor to a management role. And this person in particular wanted to ask, how can you continue to contribute technically if you move into management? Do you think this is only an issue at maybe larger companies or smaller companies? Have you experienced this? You know, what are your thoughts?
Right. I'm going to give you answer, three-part answer in some ways. My answer begins with this. I have done this. I have written code being the manager. I have managed it in some way where, I would have some planning done. If I need to create some Jira issues to do some project work, I will just do that in the morning. I will wake up early, do it. Then in the mid-morning, I will have my meetings, do the coordination, and in the afternoon, I would write my code. But it means it's a long day, and it also means that you are doing everything in not to the best extent that you can do. So I would say that if you are trying to be a manager, really be a manager. If you're trying to be an IC, really be an IC. And do it for a couple of years, at least 2-3 years. As I said, it's a skill. Being a manager is a skill. So you have to do it at least for a few years to understand whether you're good at it and whether you like it. Because so many times we think that we are not good at it, so we are not meant to do it, which is so not true. We are not good at it because we haven't had a chance to do this. Having difficult conversations with fully grown adults, we don't do that as much. Telling somebody, oh, you need to finish this quickly, you need to do this, and we don't do that. We do it with kids, but we don't do it with the fully grown adults. So you have to learn how to have some of those conversations. It becomes, as you spend more time, you get better at that job. And it's important to know that if at all it really happens that you decide that, okay, I have done this for 2-3 years, I have given myself ample opportunity to be good at it, but I still don't like it, there should not be any reason not to come back to an IC role. You might have to work a little extra at that point to show your credentials, right? Maybe, take some extra courses on Coursera. If you think about, getting a degree or something, yeah, go ahead and do that. Or maybe if you just think, maybe having your own GitHub page filled with projects that, oh, I even though I was a manager, I was doing some of these things, or I decided to transition, I'm doing more of this learning. And diving deep in the technology. So, showcase that. And it should be possible to come back to an IC role. There should not be any shame. And I'm hoping that the industry at some point realizes, and it's kind of realizing this already, that people are valuable, no matter what job they have been, even if they have been out of work for some time. It's important, what they bring to the table. It's important to understand their value, whether they bring their authentic self to the work, whether they are committed and passionate about the work. And those things matter a lot, not just the technical skills, because if you're passionate, you will work at it late in the night and you will get it done. So it's important, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So actually leading into what you're saying, so if let's say somebody moves from individual contributor to manager and they immediately don't like it. Now, I like your attitude of like, just keep trying it. Try it for a while because you're never going to be good at something right off the bat. So let's just try it. If they stick it out, still decide it's not for them, but then want to go back to that IC role, do you think there's like a specific thing they should be like ready to say in interviews to sort of explain that transition? Or do you think it's better to, like you said, just focus on, here's the ways that I've kept my skills sharp while I was managing, but really I just prefer to be an individual contributor. And so that's the reason for my switch. Like, is it really something that you're going to have to explain, do you think? And if so, should you have an explanation ready?
I would assume that anybody who has been an IC and has been in that role for a while, they have, as you spend more time in technology, you kind of develop a sixth sense about it. You kind of understand technology intuitively, even though you have been away from it. You understand that going back would not be as difficult as it was from going, learning it in a college or, applying it to your first job, because now you have done it. You really know how things work. You have done it. So you can do this much more easier. Initial years of our career, if you put more effort into it, the path becomes easier because you can do that transition more easily, I guess. and you can explain it and be truthful, be forthcoming about that in the interview. I think interviewers, like whoever it is, maybe even if it is like an engineer, really be yourself, because these are the people you're working with. So they will get a chance to know your true self in that interview, and they will give you a chance. Most people actually give people chance. So, take that chance for yourself.
Excellent. I love that. Okay, so you touched on this earlier about the idea that you don't necessarily have to keep moving up into a managerial role to like keep your career going. There were a lot of people that were worried that if they just stay as an individual contributor, their career might stall. This one person said, I'm really not keen on the idea of management, but I'm worried that I'll have to keep making lateral moves to avoid being seen as complacent or unmotivated. Is this a worry that is, kind of shared within the industry? Or is this something that, maybe you have a different take on?
Right. I really don't think being a individual contributor should stall you. I hope in your own company there is like a proper technical ladder defined. But if you realize that, okay, maybe there is not a whole lot of path here, we are very blessed and fortunate to be working in an industry where there are new ideas coming and new companies are coming. So you can go and try applying for some of these new companies and try and see if they have some of the ladder that you expect them to have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as we're looking at this idea of kind of individual contributor versus manager, and it's sort of this binary, right? Is one of the options considered maybe safer or more of like a company staple? A lot of people wrote in saying that they were looking for long-term job stability. This person specifically is software engineering, is in software engineering, obviously. But do you think that one of them is maybe not recession-proof isn't the right word for it, but you know what I mean? Like one is a little bit more secure in case of like large changes within the org?
In today's world, no job is safe. I wish I could tell you that some jobs are safe and that would be a good answer, but which is not true. The real thing is that the change is always coming, and a change comes to every job, whether you are a manager or you are an individual contributor. For an individual contributor, just changing like your technology stack or changing certain parts of your code base, maybe that brings a change. Having new teammates bring a change. Having hybrid work environment like what we experienced last year, that brings a change. Having people in different time zones, that brings a change. So you have to adjust to those changes as well. As a manager, the change comes not only from you, but also come from the company, right? So if the company is moving in a different direction as opposed to what your team is doing, the change is going to come to you. Sometimes the change would come from other directions, maybe from the market, from the sister company or sister team or so, because something has changed. And so change always is happening in all jobs. What really helps you is being nimble and being accepting that the change is coming, and we still try to forge on and be productive.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so we have about 12 minutes left, and I know we want to save the last like 5 to 8 minutes to talk some more about chain analysis and dig into some of the open roles. One question that I want to kind of touch on, because I know we wanted to discuss more about the idea of like planning, right? Of like how do you plan to make this next move? One person had asked how to leverage their existing knowledge as an individual contributor when making decisions on how to move forward. So let's talk a little bit about like the planning period, right? What kind, when you were doing this, did you lay out like just a plan for your immediate future, or did you try and look, years ahead and say like, okay, I'm starting out as an IC, I want to try and get to a managerial role within the next 5 years or something? How did you lay it out?
No, as I said, I didn't lay out any plan. I did what seemed right to do. If it meant, working with somebody to help them tune their query, I did that. If it meant creating documentation, I did that. If it meant writing unit tests for a project that didn't have as many unit tests, I did that as well. So being really good at your job kind of opens door, because it helps other people notice you. And so that definitely opens new doors for you. Sometimes the doors you may not even be aware of. Some of the transitions that you yourself have not even imagined, those would happen for you because you are really good and people see the value that you bring to the table. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. Thank you. Okay, so in the last 10 minutes we've got on today's chat, I just want to highlight here something for you. There we go. So the screen y'all should be seeing in front of you is a questionnaire that we asked Shilpa to fill out in advance of today's session. And we asked her some questions about the company culture at Chainalysis. So can you elaborate on the idea how you described the company culture as mission driven? Do y'all have like a lot of core values or core missions, or is there really one that you focus on?
Yeah, we definitely have 4 values. And one of the ones that I really like is give first. That's one of our core values, is the first value that we bring. So many times, if you are the first person who decides that, oh, somebody help me with this, I'm going to give them a credit for that. Or, if you see somebody struggling with something and you go ahead and do it and help them in any ways. So giving first is one of the value that I really like and enjoy. And radical gradualism is one of our one of our values. It kind of tells you that the ideas, the radical ideas are appreciated. And so some of those things that's important. Why I chose the first answer here as a mission driven is because Chainalysis is trying to build trust in blockchain. That's our tagline. But one of the things that I have always appreciated is that cryptocurrency brings such a value to the world, in the sense that some of the people who have not easily had access to the banking, they might be able to do that on their phone right now. And if company like Chainalysis is helping people understand who they are interacting with, right? So where your cryptocurrency tokens are going, where your value is moving. So Chainalysis does a very good job of telling you that. And people are really passionate about our mission, about bringing that trust to the blockchain. So that's definitely something that rubs on me. I remember a few years ago, I met one of my colleagues, and he said that this is a company where I feel that my work is making my girls safe in the world. And that really touched me. So I'm going to use it, that kind of work. When you work in that kind of company, you feel that the company's mission is kind of your mission as well. So
I absolutely love that. Yeah, it really does make a huge difference when you are able to when the company values really resonate with your own, and you can feel good about going into work. You can feel good, like, you are actively helping with a problem that you consider very important and very crucial, in our world. So I love that. We asked you about your top tips for someone who's interviewing with Chainalysis, and you said to have a growth mindset. Is there any way that you think it's important to really highlight this in your interview, or is it something that you should be asking about in particular?
So I'm assuming this is a question. This is a person who is interviewing at Chainalysis for a job, right? The reason I answered this is that we are a cryptocurrency analysis company. Cryptocurrency did not exist in 2008, or it existed in a very different form and shape. So everybody here has learned about cryptocurrency in last many years, right? So the idea is that if you are capable of learning, if you think that I'm not fully formed, my views are not fully formed, I'm ready to learn. Every day is a new challenge. That kind of mentality really helps you be successful in today's world, and it definitely will help you at Chainalysis.
Absolutely. Okay, so in the last 6 minutes we've got, I'm going to click us over to a slide that talks about some open roles at Chainalysis. Now, I'm going to be sharing some links in the chat, in the Zoom chat in just a moment, to where you can check out these listings and these job descriptions separately and in more depth. But David, did you want to come on and start talking to us a little bit about some of these open roles? Or are there any information that people should know about your hiring stuff right now?
Yeah, sure. So first and foremost, thanks for putting this together, Meg, Paloma, the team over at Power to Fly, and Shilpa. I mean, I learned a lot today, so thank you for that. You did amazing. Here at Chainalysis, we're pretty small organization. So I know today's topic of conversation was around IC versus leadership. One of the things that we actually do look for in all of our engineers and mostly like everyone that we hire is that optimism and open-mindedness around training and mentorship. It is something that we ask in interviews pretty much at all levels, because being in a smaller organization, we're always looking for you, whomever it may be, to take the next step in their career. So as far as like the roles and the topic here was excellent. We're always looking for hands-on engineers. This is just a tiny piece of what we're actually hiring globally. I just took a look at our career site, and I think we're at 96 roles globally, and it doesn't even count the actual headcount that we have under each role. So it's easily over 100. From a technology standpoint, I'll go through it real quickly, and Shilpa, feel free to hop in. But from a core engineering standpoint, our stack is core Java with a little bit of Scala and Go. We're pretty fully integrated into AWS, but we are always open to cloud agnostic, whether it's GCP or Azure. On the data side, it's mostly Java, Kafka, Python. Again, we're always looking for folks that are hands-on in programming. We do speak to folks that not only program in core Java, we are language agnostic. So if you're coming from a different environment, whether it be C++, C#, Python, we would love to speak to you. And this is a question I get all the time during my conversations. Is cryptocurrency required? And the answer is no. As long as you are familiar or even heard of Bitcoin, Ethereum, I've had candidates literally tell me, I see it on the news. I don't know much else, but I'm really interested in learning about it. That's okay. Like, that's totally cool. No worries at all. We want to speak to you because, again, that's that growth mindset that Shilpa addressed earlier, having an open mind and hopping into an environment, a domain, an industry that is still fairly young in an ever-growing technical and digital world. We want to speak to you. Yeah, I'll address the EM role. This is a huge hire for us. We have several open EM roles, although it's just one listed here. We're looking for folks that come from a technical background, but can people lead? This comes down to training, mentorship, and when I think of team leadership, I think of two R's that Shilpa mentioned earlier: recruiting and retention. It's tough enough to recruit people. It's even more difficult to retain people. We need to make sure, and we always want to make sure that people are happy being challenged. And if they're not, we're addressing those challenges before it's too late. That's one of the toughest things about people leadership, and having those communication skills that Shilpa mentioned, being able to really understand the different personalities on your team is so important. If you're managing 6 to 8 people, you have to be flexible, and you should be flexible in understanding what people's needs are, how they learn and how they want to learn, and what they want and like what their aspirations are. You may have people that want to remain hands-on. You may have people that want to go into a leadership route, like a TL route, right? So those are the things that come up with the leadership side here at Chainalysis, as well as many other companies. So I'm happy to address any questions. I know we're almost at time.
Thank you so much for that, David. I've shared links with everybody in the thread about where you can check out the listings, particularly for what you see in front of you here. I just did a quick check of Chainalysis company page. I put the link to that in the chat again as well. It looks like currently y'all have 108 roles posted with us, and obviously probably more on your own careers page. If what you've heard today makes you at all curious about Chainalysis, or even just something kind of that you'd like to dig in for a little bit more information, please feel free to go to Chainalysis company page on Power to Fly. Like I said, you can click over here to check out company info. They've got a lot of great things that you can learn about the company there. clicking on events is going to show you both past recordings for events that they have participated in with us, as well as events that are upcoming and in the future. So that way you can kind of stay up to date on, maybe what their partnership with Power to Fly has been like, and how their hiring needs have changed over, the last year, 2 years, whatever. And then obviously you can check out the open roles, which is always such a big thing. You can search within just Chainalysis' listings. You can also set up a job alert for yourself there. So definitely take a look at these features that we have going for you. And before we jump, I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone, all of our attendees. These were some amazing questions y'all submitted ahead of today's session. So it was super great. And I also want to extend a big thank you to David, to Shilpa, as well as to Chainalysis for lending them to us for the afternoon. There's always a lot more prep work that goes into these sessions than just the hour that we get to spend with all of you. So huge thank you to both of you for taking time out of your day to be with us. It's so appreciated.
Thank you to Power.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right, so that rounds us out for Tuesday. We've got some more chats, like really great sessions coming up later in the week. We've got a virtual or mock interview session happening tomorrow. So definitely happening next week. So definitely stay tuned for that. And I hope that we'll see many more of you joining us on chats in the future. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.